So now for something completely different from that very technical demonstration to a problem that we resolved. I'm Joan Kolarik from the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. We've been live in Alma since February 2017. And right before we went live, we moved a lot of content around. And I said, oh, it's okay, when we get to Alma, we'll just update everything because we'll be able to do that in Alma. But in Israel, most people don't use holding records. And so we also got holding records when we moved to Alma. And it turned out that you can't update individual holding records with holding record-specific data. There's a global change or nothing, or manual. So we did a little API, and I thought I'd share it with you because, I don't know, I thought it was interesting at the time. So that's what our use case was. I stole this lovely interface from one of my colleagues, just changed the colors. But we just wanted to update those individual subfields in holdings records. And by the way, that it's, again, how far we are from what was just being discussed, this information is generated by one of the librarians printing out the from analytics spreadsheets, which are handed to a retiree who doesn't know what a computer is, who walks around in the shelves and updates with a pencil. And we had to get that back into Alma somehow. I'm told if I try and teach them how to use computers, I'll scare them away. So that's the need, the use case. So we wanted a web utility that would let us put this data back into a CSV file and then just upload it to Alma without having to go in and update each individual subfield, because that's harder than putting something in a spreadsheet. So I wrote the algorithm, and we have a tech guy who did the PHP programming, and we used the bib API. And so it's, again, very simple. We needed to, for example, update holdings field 866 and change the subfield A from what it says there to something else, or we needed to change 852 subfield Z, which we used for a shelf location, that sort of thing. And I thought, oh, great, we found this developer network blog that somebody had written a way to update call numbers. And that's in the holdings record, and that's the same thing. But it turned out that they use barcodes to identify the records. That they'd go in item barcode to holdings record. But our holdings don't have items. So how do we identify them? And so we had to do an algorithm where we, using the bib MMSID, the library, and the location, we would identify the unique holding record that needed to be updated. So if you guys are all techie, I'm sure I'm just talking gibberish right now, far worse than what your presentation was. So basically, that's what we did. We had the file structure that you see here, and then we had the field that would be changed, the subfield that would be changed, and the new value. No error checking, just put in a new value. And we would get the MMS ID from the CSV file. Using the retrieve holding list get, we pull out the list of holdings. And at that time, it turned out that we had deeper problems than we knew about the first time we ran it, because it turned out we had some cases where we actually didn't have a holdings record. And we had some cases where we had two holdings records that matched the library and the location. And now what do we do? So we had to add in unanticipated checking, which would detect those problems, which is a good thing, because our data is cleaner now. But once you find it, once you've identified a holding record with it, the holdings list actually contains the URI of the get that you need to send, and, you send that and it brings back the XML. You throw your subfield into the XML, and you send it back using the same call, but just as a put with the XML attached, and you repeat until it's complete. Very high tech. And then at the end, there's a report that tells you what happened, and this is just a very simple, there's a subfield, and we updated it with a word test. Woohoo. And then when we output it, we had a report. We have a report that tells us what succeeded, and wherever there was no match found, it gave us the MMS ID, so we could go and find out what's going on there. And the same thing, if we had too many matches found, it would tell us what's going on there. And like I said, I wrote the basic plan, but our programmer, Anton Resnick, who I could not bring with me to IGeLU this year, did the program. And that's just a simple little utility. But I feel it kind of talks about how we've got the developers blog with all these wonderful ideas, but then when you try to apply it at your organization, whoops, we do things a little differently and we can't use that. And then you just totally have to rewrite the whole thing from beginning to end. So it was just an interesting exercise in trying to reuse what's there already. So that's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Are there questions?
It's the end of the day. Time to go.
Yeah, but